For all of my wonderful blog visitors and readers, I was just laying down just now and I was thinking about some things. Actually today I'm not very well. I have a kind of fever and a migraine, but I had these thoughts that was kind of bursting in my head, and I thought that I'd talk about it before I forget, because I often do that. I have these very strong thoughts that come, and I have to get it on paper or on film or record it, or else it kind of gets forgotten. And I thought that some of the thoughts might benefit a few people out there who may have the same thoughts. And that is, a lot of things that we experience when we're growing up either make or break us when we are adults. And a lot of things that we don't experience when we're growing up as children may also make or break us when we are adults. And the situation we are born into, either we have chosen or by the force of karma, we were put there. Either way, the blame isn't for the situation that we were born to around us, but the blame or the credit will go back to us. So let me explain all of that. I get often asked, 15, 20 years ago when I first was found out to be a reincarnation by various High Lamas. One of them is His Eminence Khyentse Jampa Yeshe Rinpoche. And I really never thought highly of myself or thought strongly that I'm some kind of great incarnation. But that would contradict all the great Lamas and the High Lamas who said that I am, of which is Khyentse Jampa Yeshe. So I don't always outright deny that I'm a reincarnation because I can't contradict Khyentse Rinpoche. But having said that, just because a High Lama says you're a reincarnation, you still have to do the actions or perform or leave a mark of a high incarnation, whatever that is. As Kyabje Pabonka Dorji Chang used to say, if you're a real tuku, you will leave a mark in this world, a mark of benefit to others. So, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is that when I was first found out to be a reincarnation, many people asked me, and it went on for years within the Tibetan community, outside community, for years, even up to recently. Well, if you are a reincarnated Lama and you did so many wonderful things in your previous lives and practiced the Dharma and held your vows and meditated and had Guru devotion, then how come in this life you were born into such a difficult and tumultuous and hard to fathom childhood? And I'm going to explain that, and it might help other people. And what I'm not trying to explain is reincarnation, but what I'm trying to explain is about how childhood, experiencing and not experiencing things, can both make or break or enhance a person's adulthood. That's what it's about. But it relates to me because I have this label of reincarnated Lama or Tuku, a reincarnated person that is supposed to have practiced in my previous lives. So if I practice and I have all these merits and I have all these great advancements, so-called, then why is it I'm born in such a difficult situation? As I said, we either choose the situation or we are born to it due to the karmic repercussions of what we have done. Repercussions not in a punishment sake, but in the sense of cause and effect. And I guess my childhood was horrible in many layperson's sense of the idealistic childhood. And I'm going to explain, and the explanation is not to justify that I had this childhood and therefore, see, I am a high incarnation or I am an incarnation. None of it's justification or to cover. It's just my thoughts. And what it is that when my parents conceived me, they were not married. And during their era, not being married, and also my father had another family, and my mother was very young and she didn't know. So when I was conceived, it was during the era where not being married and having kids out of wedlock or having other families besides only having one family was considered a huge, huge scandal. Very bad. So I understand that. So my mother, being in the era where it's scandalous to have a child without a husband, gave me up to adoptive parents. So for years, when she gave me up and I was growing up in Taiwan, I lived with a set of parents there that I thought was really my parents. You know, I really thought it was my parents. And so when I was around 6 or 7, I was taken to the US, and then I met another set of parents. And then I was told, well, these are your real parents now. And so in my little young mind, when I was 6 or 7, I was thinking to myself, well, the people in Taiwan were my family, but then they're not my family, they're not my parents now, and the 3 kids that they had in Taiwan are not my brothers, because these people in America now are my new parents. And it was kind of confusing for me as a child, but I didn't ask. I mean, how do you ask? So these new parents in Howell, New Jersey became my parents, and I was told they are my parents, they are my birth parents, and you know, their relatives and they themselves would tell me, oh, you know, your nose looks like your mom's, your face looks like your dad's, your skin color looks like your aunt's. And so, you know, you kind of start believing that you start looking like your adopted parents because you're just a kid. But as you grow up, your features change, you know. And then when I was around, I don't know, 12, 13, I was at a relative's house in New Jersey, you know, because I was adopted from Taiwan to New Jersey. And one of the relatives there kind of said, oh, you are adopted, or you're not part of our family, or you're not a blood relation of our family. And this person who said it to me was not a very popular person in the family anyways. And she kind of said that to me, and it shocked me because I thought, what? Now I'm like 12 or 13, and I'm going through this trauma that I went through when I was 6 to say, hey, the parents that I'm with now are not my parents. And so it's very upsetting, and it's a fundamental, type of foundation that every child needs to feel grounded and loved and safe and nurtured and belong to. To have parents that you can be safe with, that you can be yourself, you can let go, you can relax, you can learn, you can be scolded, complimented, and to know that these are your parents and they're doing it to you because you are of their flesh, you are of their blood, you are of their being. And to have this while you're growing up, to know that you are belonging to these people. And so whatever they do to you is love. Gives a lot of grounding to a child. Gives a lot of safety, a lot of confidence to a child. And when suddenly what you believe is to be your safety net, your childhood grounding and foundation is pulled away a second time, and at an age where you can reason is already there, you know, 14, 12, 13, 14, you're starting to have reason, or you have reasoning. It's very detrimental. And so at that age, I found out that my second set of parents, again, are not my parents. And then I kind of found out who my real mother was, or is, because people started whispering who she was. And she was a part of the community that lived there, but she herself didn't live in the community anymore, but she was a part of them. And, but nobody would tell me who my father was. You know, I had no idea. So when I was around 22, 23, I found out from another person, believe it or not, in Nepal, who my mother, my birth mother was, and my birth father. And in fact, I met my birth father. And so at 22, 23, which, you know, you're an adult, you're already grown up, and you should be in your matured mind, I found out who my third set of parents were. And it was a happy time. It was also an upsetting time. It was also a very confusing time, because a part of me said, don't believe it. They can't be your parents. Someone's going to come tell you later and say they're not your parents. A part of me says, well, you know, I'm already 22, 23. If they tell me they're my parents, what do they get? They don't get anything, and nobody gets anything, you know? So it must be true. But it turned out that these third set of parents were my natural parents. And I'm not going to go into the details. It's not necessary here, that they really are. And now I'm 47, and they still are my parents. And thank goodness they're both still alive. Although I don't have a very close relationship with them, understandably, because I never grew up with them. And there was this kind of deception, if that's not too strong of a word, that you grow up ungrounded. And the value system of my first parents, the value system of my second parents, and the value systems of my third parents were very different, radically different. Although the value systems of my third parents didn't affect me much, because I was already living on my own and adult and independent. But when I was growing up, besides the mystery and the constant fear that I didn't belong, that who are my parents, the confusion, and not having a good foundation of growing up, created insecurities, created fears, created a lack of trust. Because when you're growing up, the people that you trust the most are your parents. And when your parents unwillingly, due to circumstances, or sometimes in some people's cases, willingly deceive you, deceive a child, hurt a child, by lying to them. And not lying to them about, you know, oh, let's not go to the park because, you know, it's raining, it's not raining. It's not small little deceptions. It's like the ultimate deception that they're not your parents, and they've been lying to you to say they are. And my second set of parents told me they're my parents, not because they were trying to protect me. It was more about protecting themselves. I knew that later. So, but they did a lot of good things for me also. You know, they did. So besides the unsure ground of not being able to have confidence of who I was, who I am, who I wanted to be, due to this kind of experience, there was a lot of things that came along with that. There were many times that my step-parents had relationship problems, and they argued incessantly, and they were violent, and they weren't physically violent with each other, but they were violent with objects, breaking things, knocking things. I mean, really highly destructive. That I would sometimes come home from school to the home, and to be piles, literally piles of broken things, furniture, chairs, figurines and frames and hangers and clothes ripped up, plates and cups, many things, because they used to have incessant arguments because they didn't trust each other. And there was a lot of reason for them not to trust each other, which mainly came from my stepfather, which also I won't get into at this moment. But there was all this kind of insecurity, because when I'd come home, I didn't know if there would be peace or there would be pandemonium. I really didn't know what it would be. And so, my mother, bless her heart, my stepmother was a really kind person, but she suffered from schizophrenia, undiagnosed for over 30 years. And I found out later, after I left home, that when she finally got the medication and diagnosis that she needed, she really just totally became calm and really who she really was, a kind person. But I grew up in a time where her schizophrenia was not diagnosed, and so she consequently made herself and a lot of people and myself suffer quite a lot, because she'd have this kind of split personality. She'd be very violent, she'd be accusational, she'd be extremely paranoid. The world was out to get her, and she wouldn't just express it in speech, she would also express it in violence. And to me, there was a lot of physical violence. It wasn't to her husband or to each other, or my stepfather to her, but it was to me, that there was a lot of physical violence growing up because of her schizophrenia. And so there was this constant fear that, like, yesterday everything's okay, and today would it be okay? And it's okay today, would it be okay tomorrow? Or they'd make promises, you know, we'd do this, we'd buy this, or we'd arrange this, and later it would just change. It would just change because they had an argument, it would change because she was unhappy, it would change because her schizophrenia kicked in. And so there was all this insecurity of growing up, of physical violence, and constant broken promises, and a lot of disappointments, and a lot of deception. They had deception between each other, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's just a fact. They had a lot of deception between each other. As a result, there was a lot of deception with people around them and towards me. And it wasn't a one-off thing, it was constant when I was growing up, constant. That's why I left home when I was 15. Well, actually, going on 16. And so when I grew up, I didn't have the security of knowing who I was, what race I was. You know, was I Chinese? Was I Japanese? Was I don't even know what race. It doesn't really matter now, but it did when I was growing up. You know, we can use Dharma and say everything's emptiness. It is emptiness, but you know, I'm not a Buddha. I'm not an enlightened being, and when I'm growing up as a child, I do need some grounding. And so there was a lot of deception when I was growing up, and there was a lot of lies, and there was a lot of instability and violence, and there was a lot of foundational disruptions, where the very foundation of my existence was just pulled away a few times. And so when I, you know, was in my teenage years, and then in my 20s and early 30s, it affected me very deeply, because it made me not trust people, not believe people, fanatical and checking things over and over and over, worried that whatever people told me, was it the truth or a lie? And when people disappointed me or lied or broke their promises, it would affect me very deeply. Why? I guess when you get a lot of something, either you become numb to it or you become oversensitized until you learn to deal with it. So in my case, I became oversensitized to it. I don't become numb to things. Being numb or oversensitized, both is extremes, both is not good. We should really have the middle way. But I became oversensitized to it. So people around me who lie, and people around me who make a promise and don't do it, and I end up chasing them or reminding them, it's very disruptive to the way I operate or work with people, because because of all the disruptions and the deceptions and the lies and the broken promises that I experienced growing up for good reasons. I mean, my mother was not well, you know, she really was not well. I don't think she did it on purpose, and I'm all right with it now. It made me oversensitized to it, or very sensitized, or extremely sensitive towards it. Because I'm sensitive towards it, I myself do my best to not disappoint people, to not have people chase me. I mean, I have, you know, people who help me and I tell them, remind me, but it's about, you know, certain assignments or certain write-ups or certain things we need to do. It's not something fundamental. It's not something like, oh, I promise you a salary and then I'm not going to do it. Or I promise you that I'm going to give you this teaching and I'm not going to do it. Or that I'm going to take you to buy this and I'm not going to do it. Or you needed medical treatment and I forgot and I don't care. Not something so important, you know. I mean, well, important is subjective also, importance. So it made me become an adult that really I try my best not to disappoint people, to break my promises. And for me, it's a big challenge because I'm not a ordinary person in the sense of like just me and a family unit. I mean, I have a lot of friends and students, being some sort of teacher that I am. And so I have hundreds of people that I make promises to, you know, crowds and tens of people over the years. So it's a real challenge for me to keep promises to hundreds of people, literally, year after year after year, decade after decade. And I mean it, you know, sometimes I made promises to Ganden Monastery, and we're talking about thousands of people, thousands of monks. So it's been a real challenge because I'm real sensitive to not breaking my promises, and it turned out to be really good training. And now when I look back and I reflect back, I feel that through the power of the blessings of perhaps my teachers and my good karma, that I was born into a situation that I would get physically hurt, that I would have a lot of violence upon my physical body. I would be assaulted mentally. I would be insulted mentally. I would have a lot of broken promises and disappointments, and that my basis of existence would be pulled away many, many times. And now that I reflect back, I feel tremendously grateful. Yeah, grateful that I was born into that situation, because it made me who I am now. To not lie to people, not deceive, to not break promises, to work hard, and to have integrity. Because those are things that I didn't have when I was growing up, and it hurt. It hurt for many years. It confused me for many years. And I think the thing that I would least like to do with my life and people around me is to not confuse people with my intentions and who I am and my relationship with people, not to confuse them. Because if you're friends with people, you're honest with them. You're open. You don't want to keep people at the edge and always make them wonder who you are, what's your intentions, what's your motivation, what you're trying to do. You don't want to do that to people. You don't want to make people chase you for who you are, chase you for your intentions, chase you for your integrity. You don't want people to always be at the edge about who you are. And I think I don't like to confuse people around me. I don't want to have people chase me. I don't want to have people wonder if I'm honorable, if I have integrity. Not because of who I am, but because I didn't like that done to me. It's very painful. It's very stressful. It makes you not sleep. It makes you not be able to function. So because I know how it feels, I don't want to do that to people. I guess my experiences as a child made me grow up to not want to do it. But for some other people I've met, which is a little surprising to me, they want to do it to other people because it was done to them. They want to hurt other people because they were hurt. They want to disrupt other people's foundations and disturb them because they were hurt. And I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I feel that's wrong. I don't feel that we should continue that cycle. And that if we know better, we should stop that cycle where we are, this moment, instantly. You know, change is instant. Transformation is instant. It's whether we want it or not. It doesn't take time to transform. It's not like drugs or alcohol, where really your physical body is addicted. This is having to do with your mind. This is having to do with realizing that it creates pain for others. So what you should do is just change is instant. You just change. You just say, I don't want to. Instantly. Look, if you're going at the edge of a cliff, and if you take one more step, you're going to fall over. The next time you're there, you're going to instantly not go there. You know, you don't say, oh, let me accustom myself, and you keep going to the edge, you almost fall over, you almost fall over, you fall over. You're not going to do that. You're going to instantly stop yourself from going to the ledge. You're going to stand, you know, 6, 7, well, in my case, 8, 9 feet away from the ledge so I don't fall over. You don't need to get accustomed to that. Well, it's the same thing when you do things that hurt other people, lack of integrity, breaking promises, having to be chaste, irresponsible in our works, you know, bad moods. You confuse people who you are because you have mood swings, you're inconsistent. You confuse people. You confuse people with who you are and what you are. And you know what? A lot of us are not who we portray to be. We are not there to confuse people. We are not there to hurt people. We are not there to disappoint people. We are not there to damage people. But we inadvertently do so because we don't want to have this change. Change is difficult because we haven't experienced the full extent of the karmic repercussions that will come back from our actions. And the karmic repercussions will come back. If they didn't come back, we would have zero suffering in our lives. Zero. So, for me, I feel it's the result of good prayers, good intentions, the blessings of my lamas, the blessings of my teachers, the blessings of the 3 jewels, that I was born into a situation where I had to experience no grounding. A lot of lies, a lot of deception, instability, physical violence. And I'm not even talking about just at home. I'm talking about even when I left home at 16 and in Los Angeles, I experienced even like double, triple of what I experienced at home, even more. And those experiences in the contemporary, modernistic, or modern kind of secular world are considered negative and bad. But I'm going to go one step ahead. And I'm going to say they were good. For me. And if you were to ask me, would you be born in that situation again? My instant reaction would be no. No thanks. But when I contemplate and think about it and meditate for a little while, yes, I would be. It's kind of strange because I was sitting there laying down with my migraine and I was thinking to myself, if I had the chance to be born again in the same situation I was born into in this life, so that I can be trained up and prepare my mind for all the things I need to do as an adult, which is deal with hundreds of people, keep promises to hundreds of people, have integrity, don't hurt people, don't damage people, tell people the truth, benefit them as much as possible, be generous. If I was asked to take that rebirth again, where I would have to experience the same things to train me up, to grow up, to be a good person meaning a person that experiences the pain and doesn't want to give that pain to others, I would actually say yes. And I kind of make that breakthrough today and just now because, yes, I would take rebirth in that situation again. Yes, if I needed to. Yes, I will not be afraid. Yes, it was a good experience. Yes, it is a result of my good karma. Yes, it was a wonderful childhood for what I wanted to do. So I'm going to take all the pain, the problems, the difficulties, the disappointments, the lies, all the deceptions, and turn it around and say it was good. And it's not my mind trying to adjust or play and as a way to deal with what happened. But in my mind, that's what made me who I am. Who am I? Definitely not the greatest person in the world, definitely not. But I'm also not the worst person in the world. And I know that I am a generous person, that I like to give. I know that I can feel empathy for pain, and I would go out of my way to do things. I know that in general I'm a kind person because kindness has kind of been my main practice for many years. I'm not the kindest person, but I am a kind person. It made me an honest person. It made me not want to deceive people because I don't like deception. It made me not want to disappoint people because I've been disappointed thousands of times. It made me a person that doesn't want to confuse people of what I am. I don't want to be a mystery. I don't want to be an enigma. It sounds romantic and fun and mystical, but I don't want to be mysterious. I don't want to be mystical. I don't want to make people wonder who I am. I want people to say, hey, Tsem Rinpoche or this person or that person is kind, it's nice, reliable. We can trust them and they're a good person and we can just rest with that. I want people to be around me and not be on their toes about who I am. If they're going to be on their toes about work and quality of work and performance, that's different. But I don't want people to be around me, to be on their toes all the time, to guess, who am I? What am I going to do? What's my unpredictability in the sense of reliability? I don't mind being unpredictable in the sense of creativity, but not unpredictable in the sense of reliability or a good person or a bad person. Oh, is this guy going to steal from us today? Is he going to tell us the truth? Hey, if he's nice to us, what does he want? What's his agenda? I don't want people to be confused about who I am. Because, why does that matter? Because whatever I do, I'm dependent on others. They are dependent on me. We are interdependent. No man is an island or, you know, a stone or a rock on their own. So I don't want people to be confused about who I am and my intentions. I would like to be mysterious in that I am creative and unpredictable, and I'll come out with great, fabulous, delicious, wonderful, earth-shattering, if I may, ideas that would bring benefit to others. I like that. So my experience as a child was pervasively, on a secular sense, negative, but in a spiritual, in a pseudo-psychological sense, for me, very positive. So as a child, if the child is not challenged, they will experience the challenge in their adulthood. That means if they were not made to earn their own money, if they were not put in a situation where they had to perform and bring results, if they were not put in a situation where they had to be self-reliant, when they grow up and they become an adult, they will have to learn as an adult what they should have learned as a child. So adults who are not self-reliant, who are not reliable, who are not independent, who are not able to function or lead or be an adult in every sense of the word, is because as a child they were not put into that situation, because we coddled them, because we protected them, because we loved them, because we nurtured them, love in the wrong way, because we always sheltered them. So when we do that to a child out of love, the intention is beautiful, but the result may not always be. So when the child is young and they're not challenged to make their own money, they're not challenged to be independent, they're not challenged to come up with ideas or to survive or to have integrity or tell the truth or perform or to have results, they grow up as adults having to develop those qualities. And you know what? As adults, they suffer more as a child because there's no cushion. You don't want to look at a 30-year-old who acts like a 12-year-old. You don't want to teach a 30-year-old integrity, honesty, having results, or thinking maturely, or taking responsibility, or explaining, lecturing them about why it hurts when you break your promise or when you don't finish your work. You don't want to explain that to a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, because that's what you would explain to a 10-year-old, to a 12-year-old, to a 15-year-old. And so when you put a 10, 12, 15-year-old in a situation where they have to produce, there's got to be results, they're independent, they make their own, and they keep their promises, they have integrity, they don't disappoint, then when they're 20, they've perfected that. When they're 30, they're a master of it. When they're 40 and 50, they're an inspiration, and they are a leader, and they are someone that people can trust and follow because they've developed these qualities as a child. So as a parent, we have a special responsibility to put our children in a situation where they will become pros in their 20s of honesty, integrity, production, results, and masters of integrity, production, results in their 30s, and inspirations to others in their 40s and 50s. And in their 60s and 70s, they should be fountainheads of wisdom based on a lifetime of integrity, care, benefiting others, love, like many of the old lamas that I've seen in the monasteries. So, when we have adults that you have to push and deal with their personalities and remind them to be kind, to not lie, to have integrity, to finish your work, to come out with ideas, to think, to take responsibility, something was lacking in their childhood, either from their adults or their own resistance, or both, or a combination, or whatever. As I said, I'm not judging or putting people in boxes, but it can only be one or two things. You know, what else could it be? So as adults, whatever we need to learn, there are things as adults we need to learn, and there are things that we need to learn as children. But many of the things that we know as adults come from learning when we were growing up. So whatever we didn't learn when we were growing up, we're going to have to learn when we're grown up. And that is where the problem arises. Because when we're grown up, maybe our parents are old, or bless their hearts, they may have passed away, or they're not capable of taking care of us anymore, and we got to take care of them. Or we need to take care of ourselves and the people around us. Because if we're perpetually a child, we will burden everybody around us. And burdening people makes people lose respect for us. And when they lose respect, we lose self-respect. When we lose self-respect, we become deceptive, we become angersome, we become hateful, and we become all the things that we rather not become. We rather not become. So therefore, if you didn't learn all these things as a child, or you learned wrongly as a child, is it too late as an adult? Definitely not. Because the mind stream you had in your previous lives is the same mind stream you had at their deaths. And the mind stream you had at their deaths is the mind stream you had when you took rebirth in your mother's womb for 9 months. And when you took rebirth, when you came out of your blessed mother's womb, it's the same mind stream. And it's the same mind stream that continues when you are an infant, to preschool years, to kiddie years, to teenage years, to adult years, to who you are now. It is the exact same mind stream. And that mind stream will continue to when you age, and when you die again, and when you enter the bardo, when you enter your mother again, and then when you take rebirth again, and then you're a child and you grow up again. It's the same mind stream. In that sense, that mind stream has no end. Or, if I may say so in this case, no beginning, no end. All right, that's not literally that. Don't take me literally, but just for convenience sake, there's no beginning and end. There's no age in that mind stream. That mind stream doesn't get old or young Why? Because if that mind stream is too old to learn, then when you're taking rebirth as a child again, you're too old to learn. Your body is young, but your mind should be too old to learn what? So if your body is old, and then you say that your mind is old, then that doesn't make sense, because then you must be born old again. And that doesn't make sense either. So therefore, your mind doesn't become old or young. Your physical body can become a little incapacitated due to age and a little worn out, but your mind should be sharp as ever if you develop it. So therefore, you're never too old to learn, relearn. And there's a wonderful Zen proverb that I read the other day on Twitter, which is, learning something every day is intelligence, but letting go of something every day is wisdom. Learning something every day is intelligence. Letting go of something every day is wisdom. And that really is very impactful on me. So therefore, all the horrible, inverted comma, things that I experienced as a child, now in retrospect, were not horrible. They made me who I am. Who am I? The best person I can be at the moment. But I'm not going to stop at being the best person at the moment, because I'm going to be even better. I'm going to be kinder, even more generous, more forgiving, more understanding, more tolerant, more hardworking, more self-introspective to look for improvements within myself. In other words, I want to get enlightened. And when we say we can't do it, 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 you know what? It's not the universe, it's not your enlightened nature, it's not the Buddha, it's not your parents, it's not your friends, it's not people with wisdom telling you you can't do it, it's you yourself telling you you can't do it. So when it's you yourself telling yourself you can't do it versus the universe, your friends, people with wisdom, your teachers, the Buddha telling you you can do it, well, it's you versus them. So if you yourself say you can't do it, you can't improve, you can't grow, versus all samsara and nirvana telling you you can do it, guess who's not right? Definitely yourself. So when we keep saying we can't do it, 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 actually we can do it. It's just we don't want to do it. Why don't we want to do it? Because the repercussions of damaging other people or laziness or lack of integrity hasn't come back to us full force yet. The wheel of sharp weapons hasn't come back yet. And may Lord Yamataka bless us that the wheel of sharp weapons returns quickly before it's too late, so we realize something. Now, so all the experiences that I labeled as horrible when I was growing up, today I realized were wonderful. And in the future when I talk about it, it's going to be a different me talking about it. If I need to talk about it, if it's necessary. Why? Because they made me who I am. They made me the stronger Dharma practitioner. They made me the better, they made me realize what samsara is about. They made me become a monk. Actually, it's just like when Buddha saw the old man, the dying man, the sick man, and the monk, it kind of woke up the seeds in him to say, no, you know, I'm not going to get into samsara anymore. Well, definitely, I am not the level of Buddha, but seeing all those things did open up my seeds that I don't want to get into what secular people get into, the normal secular life. I definitely want to escape from it. And that's the main reason I became a monk, because I saw what my parents went through, having kids, school, work, getting old, dying, sick, wealth, no wealth, pride, ego, fighting, competition. I saw all of that. And it opened the seeds in me that I will never engage in those actions because they bring no results. I learned from watching my parents. I learned from watching the adults. No offense to them, I learned. And when I'm different from some people that when I learn, I don't continue to keep doing. I'm different that when I learn, I stop it. That's what learning is about. When you learn something, you don't do it, or you do it. When you learn something, You do what is necessary and you stop what is not. That is what is called learning. There is no aha moment. There is no magical instant enlightenment moment. What it is that you realize it and you stop. That's it, you stop. You stop looking for inspiration. In fact, people who know what they need to do and they continuously look for inspiration is another form of laziness, it's another form of procrastination. Why is that? Because they know what they need to do. They understand it, they express it, they write it, they talk about it, they share it in conversations, in art. They know it, yet they're still looking for inspiration. That is total procrastination. That is, you want to have your cake and eat it too. So I don't really admire people or believe people who are looking for inspiration. I admire people who become the inspiration, not because they saved 1 billion people, but because they saved themselves. And in the process, they influence the people around them. Heroes are everywhere, are in us. And if we choose to be a hero without knowing it, we will be a hero. But the first person we need to look up to is ourselves. And how do we look up to ourselves? By having integrity, by finishing our work well, by doing, when we're supposed to do 2, do 3. Not being chaste, being kind, being generous, no agenda. And using every situation we have around us to benefit others and not to use others. That's how we become a hero. That's how we get a little self-respect, and that's how we get respect from others. And I promise you, anyone with self-respect, whether they are rich or poor, will live happy lives and will influence others to be happy. So myself growing up in a situation where it was really difficult and dire at times. You know, my stepmom used to threaten that she would actually kill me, that she would stab me in my sleep and she would kill me. She threatened me many, many times when she was not happy. So, you know, I went through that. Now that I look back, everything that I experienced that was not pleasant, I would experience again. Because it made me appreciate people. It made me appreciate gifts, help. It made me appreciate when people gave me money or food or a place to stay or clothes or hope or direction or advice. It made me appreciate deeply what I have now. And I guess I share and I give a lot because I appreciate what I've gotten. And when I see animals or people in pain, it bothers me and it inspires me into action to do something. Because when I was growing up, my stepfather, I'm sorry to say, when he saw other people in pain or animals, he didn't really care. He just said they deserved it. And that kind of confused me for a while because I didn't understand why they deserved it. So when I grew older, I learned from his statements that they may deserve it for whatever reason, karmic reason there is, but that they also deserve help. So whatever you experience growing up can make or break you as an adult. But why don't you not let it break you? Why don't you let it make you? It's just a shift of attitude. And whatever you didn't experience as a child that is making you or breaking you, why don't you experience it now, fast forward, and make it, and let it make you grow and not break you into reverting back to a child. Remember something. I've been asked many times, oh, since you are a high incarnation or a tukul, shouldn't you have had a perfect childhood? Shouldn't you have perfect parents, perfect situation, everything wonderful and delicious and fabulous and great? I did. I did have a perfect childhood. I did have a wonderful upbringing. I did have a good upbringing because everything I experienced as a child opened up seeds in me, made me learn, made me progress, made me become All the negative things that I saw made me become not wanting to be involved in that when I grew older. And all the positive things that I saw made me want to increase that as when I got older. So did I have a perfect childhood? I did. Did I have a good upbringing? I did. Because my upbringing was not soft, easy, and handouts. But my upbringing was pandemonium, confusion, deception, hypocrisy, lies, violence, heavy disappointments. And those are the very things I do not want to bring to anyone else now that I am an adult. So would I be born in that situation again if it would help my spiritual practice and bring me to another higher level? Yes. I would love to be reborn in that situation again, to learn, to train, to grow. Would I recommend that for others? It's individual. The point is, whatever we didn't experience as a child, we will experience as an adult. And it will be difficult. Whatever we have experienced as a child, as an adult, it shouldn't be difficult anymore. It should be old hat to us. It should be really, and we should be an expert already. So whatever the situation is, take it as learning, use it, practice it, move on with it. Spiritual practice is moving on and getting results. Spiritual practice is moving on and getting results. I had a wonderful childhood. All of you had a wonderful childhood. I have a wonderful adult life. All of you have a wonderful adult life. It's our choice. Make it wonderful. Make it wonderful by starting within yourself to have integrity, generosity, kindness, straightforwardness, tolerance, forgiveness. Start right now. And that's what I wanted to share with everyone, with all my wonderful blog friends around the world. There are many lessons within what I said for me to learn, have learned, and maybe some things that it can help you. Thank you very much.